Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is a YA fantasy book that was highly recommended to me after my recent YA extravaganza on the channel, where I basically went over my problems with YA and asked people, hey, suggest YA you think I might like. And while this wasn't the most recommended book, it was recommended enough for me to realize, hey, I really loved Ninth House. In fact, Ninth House is one of my favorite recent reads, so let's go ahead and give the same author, Leigh Bardugo's YA duology a try, and let's pick up Six of Crows. It's only a duology, so even if I don't love it, it'll be pretty quick to get to. Six of Crows is essentially the story of a group of rapscallions getting together, which is usually a trope I enjoy, and going on some form of adventure, in this case, a heist type situation. And all that pretty down for. I like the cliche, let's get a group together. I enjoy when they go do especially heists. Basically, Ocean's 11 was like one of my favorite movies growing up, and apparently I'm still not over it. But I am coming into this book from the perspective of someone who typically enjoys adult fantasy. That's my go-to genre. It's what I love the most, right? I'm a big old epic fantasy guy. And Six of Crows focus as a story. The narrative written does not focus on what my target is. So I'm not the target audience for this book in any way, shape, and form. Keep that in mind while I review it, because there are hundreds of thousands of people, if you just look on the reviews online, who will defend this book as like the best ever. So just, I'm going to be pretty negative. There's a little bit of good. There's some good over here. Mostly negative. A little bit good. A little bit good. So just, yeah, keep that in mind, because I'm just not the TD, target demo. And if you are a mega fan, hey, be open-minded. Hear me out, because I'm not going to be unfair. And let's go ahead and jump into this. So we have a group of characters at the center, and there is an extreme bias in this book of who is the most important and who you should care about the most, and then the side characters. And there's also a whole lot of everyone having feelings for everyone, but no one really doing much about it. And the disconnect is even greater there, because almost everyone here acts way more mature and self-aware than any teenager should. These people are dealing with horrible traumas and problems and illnesses, but they're all just like very on the mark about it, right? They're all just like, this is what I am and what I have. And just layering more even into that, do you guys remember X-Men 3 when they first tried to do the Dark Phoenix storyline? And Magneto, a fantastic villain played by the magnificent Sir Ian McKellen, I love you so dearly, went off to meet with like the local like underground mutant group, and they were all of them like in a uniform of just like gothic clothing, like, oh, we're so edgy because I'm wearing fishnets, isn't that cool? I got a lip ring. Blah, deep and dark. Pretty much all the characters here are in that vibe, but they're done much better than like they were in X-Men. I'm not saying like they're that shallow, because in X-Men 3 they were like no character given them whatsoever, and I just couldn't get over that. Combined with the romance, it was like this combination just did not equal out to me. You're all a bunch of randy teenagers who have emotions for each other. You're more mature than your age should possibly allow. Just this level of self-awareness and maturity displayed by these teenagers is outstanding for them. Good job, guys. You're above everyone else at 16, 17. But none of them has like the wherewithal to go up to someone and just bluntly be like, hey, I like you. Do you like me too? We're both pretty hot. We're both kind of unique individuals. Let's put a pee-pee in your boom boom and make a boom. Like, nope, none of that, because it's YA. And for some reason, YA authors think that having actual romance is realized and like come to fruition is horrific. It can only happen in the last pages with a dramatic kiss. Yeah. Kaz is clearly given like the most TLC from the author. It's the character you're supposed to really connect with his emotional coldness. So predictable, and that's actually going to be my next big critique of the characters. While their setup seems already a bit for me, the then execution, they all just walk the exact line you think that character is going to walk. None of them bring any surprises to the table, which was severely disappointing, because I know Leigh Bardugo, after reading Ninth House, has extraordinary talent with characters. She just didn't bring that to the table here. I don't know if that's because it's YA and she didn't feel the need to really develop and execute these characters in a fashion you can't fully predict, or it's just she wasn't there yet in her, growth as an author. But wow, I did not really care about anyone, and I'm already struggling to like differentiate members of the crew. And I paid attention, I promise, but they all just are so X-Men 3, that crowd look. Then we have the actual plot. And I like heists. I like rescue missions. The magic system involving drug stuff, neat. We've seen it before. Addiction, but it's fine. I don't care. Whatever. The plot is severely hindered to me because it was demonstrated about halfway through the book all the way to the end that any kind of stakes they come up against, any obstacle will easily be overcome by conveniences. Not Terry Goodkind level conveniences where it's just like, you need a dragon? Here's a dragon. Like that, not that bad. It's not on that level. But there's just like, need to breathe underwater? Boom, pill. You got it. Alarm is raised? Well, it's not that big of a deal. For some reason. It was really frustrating because there were legitimate obstacles put in their path, and I was excited to see a clever workaround, but it was almost never a clever workaround. It was here's the thing, you can do it now. Just it's handed to you from the God author. Here you go, boom, done, you can move on. There's even like a thing where they just come up against a lot of people and the solution is just like, you're all sleeping. And I laughed out loud because I was just like imagining how ridiculous that is. Like, oh, come on. It just, Leigh Bardugo is better than that. After reading Ninth House, I know that for sure. And I am just blown away that this book has a 4.5 if you round up on Goodreads, and somehow Tigana has a 4.1. And, I'm not trying to say anything super judgmental here, but I think that shows a pretty clear problem with Goodreads in their audience. Like, they have a severe bias on Goodreads for YA. That website is largely dominated by that crowd. And this one was just so not for me. I'm sorry. I know there are a lot of people who love this, but I found it to be excruciatingly predictable to the point where even the twist ending was something I was calling like in the first fifth of the book. The characters in what they said, acted, their somewhat growth was all very predictable as well. The romances were not a huge crippling part of the book. I actually want to congratulate the book on having that level of self-restraint where it wasn't like 50% romance, 50% everything else. It was more like 80% everything else, 20% romance. But the romances were so cliche trope for what you would expect here. And the pacing was clunky-ish. I wouldn't say it was exceptional. If you look up online reviews about this, you see people saying everything from like, it's so fast-paced to, it's a slow, nuanced pacing of this story. And I'm like, no, it's not. Not even a little bit. This is just more like a meandering pace that is fast when it needs to be and slow when it doesn't, and there's no real like larger tact or care taken to that as like a writing approach. I can't wait to see Netflix bring this to their streaming service, and we'll have a whole lot, like so many 20-year-old actors pretending to be 16, 17, running around having kissy face romances that never go beyond that, and violence that I'm sure will not show the amount of blood appropriate for what occurs on screen, and it'll have a nice like, 16 age hard limit. We're not going to go fully graphic, which I feel like this book really could have benefited from. I think that's kind of like where I'm really sitting in this review, and it's just like another exemplary examination of where I think YA constrains, because wow, was this book like hampered by what I felt like was constant, like a hand over top the creative mind being like, don't fully realize these themes. Don't you fully take this character where it should go. Hold it back. Not too dangerous. It's like the lead singer of Maroon 5 dangerous, like he's not actually dangerous, but he's got tattoos. So you're like, ooh, that's more dangerous than my suburban life typically allows. So I'm interested. That's what I'm calling it. I'm going to say Six of Crows is the Adam Levine out of 10 for YA. It's perfectly dangerous enough to hook in and interest people who think this is like edgy and dark. And yep, that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm sure this makes a lot of people mad, but guys, I got to be true to my review. And that is what I think. Yeah, that's perfect, actually. Six of Crows. Adam Levine out of 10. I took that Adam Levine comment and tweeted it out because to me it was just like, funny, like not super serious, right? No one's thinking like Daniel genuinely believes Six of Crows is exactly like Adam Levine from Maroon 5. Like that's obviously a joke. But I tweeted it out. And I got one person in particular insinuating I'm somehow ignorant or bigoted because I've made 2 videos criticizing YA, and now I didn't like Six of Crows, which, wow.
And I just want to say, like, I don't often feed trolls. Like, obviously, I ignore them 99% of the time. But if you're a content creator and you see someone peddling a narrative like that, it's genuinely terrifying, because this person doesn't know about, like, the fact that I've constantly had to fight people on the right for me being in the position where I'm constantly promoting minority authors from different cultures, because I think they are saving fantasy. I have said that many times. They're helping fight against the, like, just stagnant condition it's been in for so long, and they're bringing in so many new levels and elements. Like, even from just the enjoyment of lore and magic, we're getting newer things because of it. But that person does not acknowledge any of that. Because I didn't like 6 of Crows and I made 2 videos criticizing YA, I'm awful. Just please be careful of what narratives around content creators you believe, or celebrities, because I've seen it happen to people I like, where just something is put forward and then it is accepted as fact in circles because no one goes on to look into the fact that maybe that person has people very close to them of LGBTQ plus relations. Maybe they've been involved in advocating for rights their whole life. No, they didn't like the subgenre you're in, so therefore they're a bad person and should be considered as such. Just be careful, please.
Anyway, like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here, and have a good one, y'all. Peace!